Well, hello. I'm delighted to introduce Cindy Olsen, whose nature-connected wisdom shines through every story. She recalls her first memory of nature at just 3 years old, a simple but yet poignant hike with her mother that foreshadowed her path as a nature therapy guide. We explore the healing power of nature in dealing with grief and the importance of creating a safe container and how letting go of our ego allows the soul to truly play in the natural world. So enjoy this episode with Cindy.
Well, welcome everybody. Today we have with us Cindy Olsen, and let me tell you a little bit about Cindy. Cindy Olsen is a mindful outdoor guide who's been leading healing, nature-based, and connection-centered programs since 2012. She specializes in meeting people where they are, gently guiding suburban and urban audiences back into meaningful connection with themselves, with others, and with the natural world. So welcome, Cindy, to the podcast.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for having me. I love this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yes, thank you. And it was wonderful. We met back in 2019. We were just talking about this yesterday when we got to see each other in person. All the way back in 2019, kind of, carefree, if we think about it, naive. We were just so immersed in this wonderful meditation conference in New York City, and it was such a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so glad that we've kept this connection all these years later.
Yeah, me too.
So I always start out asking my guests, can you share a little bit about your childhood as it relates to connection to nature?
Yeah. So I was born down south in the Carolinas, and I was brought up by a single mother. And we had very little in terms of money, right? We lived my mom was putting herself through college and raising me. And so on the weekends, the way that we would spend time together is to go for hikes, go for walks in the woods. And my first memory of deep connection with nature actually dates back to that period of my life where I was about 3 years old and wandering along a trail that my mom had chosen. And I reached down, there were these ferns all around us, and I reached down and I just felt drawn to touch a fern. And my mom says that I was about 3 years old at this point. And when I did, the amazing thing is that the leaves of the plant folded around my finger. And so in that moment, even in my 3-year-old body and mind, I felt this deep, I'm not just touching nature, it's touching me. So now, now that I'm a naturalist, I now know that area we were walking in had sensitive plants growing. And that's a particular kind of plant, if you've ever encountered one, that responds to touch. And so it was from that moment on that my deep connection with nature was formed. We moved a lot. My mom lived a very nomadic life. We would move. By 10th grade, I had been in 10 schools. And I was always searching for tribe in the human world, which was very difficult growing up. We all know what that journey is like. Wherever we would go, though, whenever I would meet the trees or a forest or just a blade of grass, it would know me and it would welcome me, and I belonged. There was no labels, no judgments. It just held me. And so it was that connection and that familiarity and that sense of belonging that really kept me connected. And I walked away from the natural world. I followed the traditional path. That I was sort of given this checklist that many of us are given to go to school, get good grades, get a job, find a partner, make more humans. And right. So I started doing all the check, and I was climbing the ladder, did really well. And I was in corporate finance for media, and found myself sitting in a tower in the middle of Manhattan and looked up and just saw everyone above me looked really unhappy. When I was home, I was struggling to keep up with motherhood. when I was at work, I was struggling to keep up with work. It wasn't working, and I was really unhappy. Meanwhile, my nightstand was always like covered. It is right now. Like I can see it on the other side of the room, covered by a stack of books about the natural world, always. And so when I decided to step off the treadmill, I came back to my first that first touch with nature, and decided to move into education. So I dropped my career and trained to be an environmental educator with a local nature center down the road that had a fantastic program to teach you local flora fauna. I started educating humans on the natural world. So now I'm starting to cut ahead from childhood, but I hope that answers the question of how this journey with nature has evolved.
Wow. Wow, what a beautiful story. As a toddler, just following your mom through the woods and having that first real embodied encounter with nature in that way. I cannot imagine having that experience of the fern responding, as you said. You mentioned sensitive plants.
Yeah.
And I've never heard the term. Is that a specific term for these types of plants? Okay.
Yeah,
that is magical. That is magical. Like your nature educator hat is on. I love that. That I've never heard that term used for plants, and wow. I mean,
it's an actual. That's a specific species of plant, which I should pull up. My like nerd side wants to pull up the Latin term, but yeah,
no, that's okay. I think the colloquial term is much better to connect with us. But I would, part of me is like, wow, but they're all sensitive.
Yes.
But these plants, we can experience their sensitivity with our five senses in some way. They're responding to us.
Yeah. What I find so fascinating is so many plants like that. The more I learn, the more I would feed my mind. I was drawn to the natural world. So I thought, how can I make this a day job? And became an educator in order to do that. However, what I found was, as I started to study the science of nature, the mechanics, the formulas, and go deeper and deeper into the sort of known, the brain world of the natural world, the more I learned how much magic there is, how much the scientists themselves are blown away, how many people who study, the deeper you go, the more you realize, the magic's actually right there, the unknown, the mystic.
I'm just curious, in your education for the science side of the natural world, did you find that your educators were connecting to that more mystical realm? Did they
Absolutely.
share that?
Oh. Yeah, I'm going to share the name of one of my beautiful mentors. Her name is Mary Davis. And there was a moment where she was teaching another touching of the plant moment, but in my adult life, this was in 2000, I guess 11 or 12. She took our group out to meet a plant called jewelweed. I don't know if you've met that plant before, but it grows up here in the Northeast. And it has these gorgeous orchid-like flowers, very small, delicate, but in the shape of sort of an orchid flower. And, she was teaching us about how this jewelweed plant is the antidote for poison ivy, and it always grows next to poison ivy. And then there were these little pods growing off, like little seed pods. And she invited me to just reach out and give it a little touch, to pet it. And so I reached my finger out and touched the pod, and it sprung open and out shot these seeds. And then it kept going, because then she said she caught the seeds And there were these little tiny green seeds in this tiny little pod. And then she said, she invited a few of us to peel the skin off the seed. And when I peeled the skin away, inside is a small seed that is turquoise blue, like Tiffany blue. I mean, it doesn't look, it's one of these moments of how is that hiding inside this tiny little pod? And just the wonder of here's a plant that's responding to my touch, that seeds have to choose how they're going to get to a new place to live, right? That's their journey. And so this one is going to fly. It's going to explode. It's an exploding pod. And I mean, even the pod as it explodes makes these beautiful little curls. I mean, it's just that I could spend all day touching those pods. and then the turquoise blue, the Tiffany blue seed, she invited us to put it in our mouth, and it's edible and it tastes like pistachio. It just kept going. The wonder that it's a plant that heals, that it has a flower like an orchid, that it, explodes in order to get its seeds to a new place, that the seeds unfurl into this like artificial blue color that's so natural. And then it tastes like pistachio. That's nature right there. And I think in that moment, I started to decide that it's time to actually drop the names, which is why I don't know all the Latin names. Because as you become, as many and other naturalists may be listening, you'll find as you start to learn the names of the birds, the names of the trees, the names of the plants, there's a lot of pride in holding that knowledge base for our minds, our human minds that value knowledge. And so I would find for myself that I would be walking through a forest and just listing off names of trees. Oh, that's a maple, that's an oak, that's a sycamore, just going down the path. And I realized that as soon as I would name something, the magic would fall away. Because they're no longer seeing that oak and the way it bends because a storm came and knocked off a branch. And now it has to lean this way. And now it's going to curve back the other way in order to balance itself so that it can find the quickest way to light. Just that's what I want to see. I want to know that oak's journey. It doesn't really matter that it's an oak, that I label it with the proper Latin term. That was my step in the direction of mindfulness in nature.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yes, there is this, I think, irony for me. It's not knowing enough that I feel like I don't know enough and I haven't known enough about the natural world. So, for instance, birds. I got the Merlin ID app and I've had it now for years, and I'm trying to learn the bird calls. And I'm trying to learn, what bird is that, by identifying it by the call. And I've got, maybe a handful of them down, maybe a little bit more. There's a desire for me to learn more about nature because I don't feel educated enough. I want to learn more about their habitats. I want to learn how they mate. I want to learn what the calls mean, because I feel like that will bring me closer.
Yeah.
But there is that, as you said, when you can name them, it does put a barrier. It kind of erects this invisible barrier to the experience of that individual, because you're just putting the species name on it.
Yeah. I mean, look at us, humans. Am I Cindy? Or am I, it's just the name alone does not tell you anything about the person and the soul underneath it. We have to go deeper. And in order to do that, it requires curiosity and time and this devotion. One of the programs that I trained in, the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, one of the assignments was to not only learn about a plant that you could consume, that you could make a tea from, but to draw it, to actually sit down. And we had to learn to sketch. We had a book on how to sketch plants, And we had to sit in wherever we were and meet a plant and draw it. And I felt this. I'm not an artist, and so or I've never been one to find myself to be skilled at drawing, and so I had this really big internal resistance to it. Like, why do I have to sit and draw? I'm not here to learn how to be an artist. And sure enough, I will never forget the plant I drew, because there is something that happens when you sit down and you really have to look at it at that level of detail and get to know its edges and its lines, how it's structured, why, and then you really know it, and you'll never lose that. That name will never fall away again.
Oh, that is, yeah. Your awareness comes into like this intimate connection with
intimacy. Yeah.
With that other being.
Yeah. That's it. The intimacy. And we're moving so fast.
Yeah.
It's how can we be intimate with anything if we do not take it into our own hands to make the choice to really slow down and to harness, where do I really want to place my attention with my intention, then we're living on that level of the forgotten names. But they're just listing and labeling the trees in the forest rather than really getting the essence.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't want to discount the experience of learning these names and labels. I think there's value in it. I think there's value in understanding. But the thing is, don't stop there.
Don't stop there. That is exactly what, yeah. And I'm at the point where I gave up on the Latin names, because for me, it's not applicable to the work I'm doing, but also it was getting in the way. And so I think each person has to choose. Some people love to know that, that gives them that brings them into stronger connection. And so I think that intimacy and how we connect with each other, with the natural world, is such a personal, individual thing, which is exactly why I create my programs the way I do, to try to hold space for people where they are standing, not with a prescribed formula that the sequence changes every time.
I love that. So I've had a number of nature therapy guides. Well, you call yourself a mindful
outdoor guide.
Mindful outdoor guide, which I love. So I've had a lot of people that do that type of work on here. I'm just curious if you can share with an audience like what that experience is taking people through, and like why would people want to do it? Just curious.
Why would someone even take that? We're also time poor. Why would we take that time to slow down? It is a portal to transformation, 100%. And to knowing yourself, to knowing the world that you're in, to intimacy with your own life. Everything I do comes back to connection to ourselves, connection to each other, and connection to the natural world. And through that connection, healing, our sense of wonder, our sense of health comes back online, which is, one of it's the hook that got people to even try forest bathing. I'm grateful for that. But also it's a window into like your true self without any influence externally. And with that place coming from the self, it really, we can launch into our best life. The reason why people, I think it's best to come with a guide. I'm a guide, and I find every opportunity I can to be a participant, because it's the permission. It's the permission. It gives us showing up as a group or an individual one-on-one. You're setting aside that time with intention to just slow down and be guided, have your hand held, and not to have to actually come up with the sequence yourself. these beautiful programs I've been trained in, both Kripalu School of Mindful Outdoor Leadership and the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. And now there are many others. That was back when this was all starting. They all offer these beautiful sequences that slowly, like an onion, like peel away the layers one at a time. And so for my own personal individual guiding, I've always found that body movement is like number one, because we hold the issues that are in our tissues, is the phrase that I love. We're holding it all the stuff that happens in our life, that happened this morning, that happened when you were 4. It's sitting in our bodies. And so by moving our body, we're able to drop some of that and be a little more open to what's actually here. And and so body movement, really meeting the land as not as an apex predator, but as a sibling, as a here I am with you, as a child, as looking at the earth as a mother, as a sister tree, as instead of just we take for granted. All of us wake up with this list of worries every morning as humans. We forget. We're not worried about being eaten today. Like, that is just that. When you walk into a forest as a human, I mean, the forest is on red alert, red alert. You hear it. You hear the chipmunks sending alarm calls. The blue jays are going nuts in the trees. It's we don't even realize, and we just blaze in because there's no door. There's no door to the forest, right? In a human world, you would never walk into someone's home. You ring the doorbell, you knock on the door first. Sometimes you bring a gift if they're going to be hosting you. And that's how money guides invite us to meet nature, is to meet it that way. Knock on the door, metaphorically speaking. Bring a little bird seed, bring an offering, bring a little herb gift to say, I'm here just to spend some time with you. And I'm not here to get. One thing I've noticed in this work over, the years I've been doing it is 13 years now. Wow. Is that it's been marketed and sold as like a healing tool. So another form of medicine, another pillar of health, which is not untrue. However, it just extends this human relationship with nature, where we're going to nature as a resource and mining it. And not, it's missing the point that like the real deep healing comes from the reciprocity, that it's not just you healing when you're walking on the path that gentle way. You are actually healing the ground beneath your feet by spending time. When you're drawing that plant or letting your body and your back nuzzle up against that tree, in your heart that it's not just your benefit, it's the benefit of the tree.
Oh, yeah. There's so many parts to this work that so intrigue me and I just see that, let me just go into one of them. And you mentioned it very briefly, and I know we talked about this a little yesterday in our meeting, was this idea of permission. I think this is such an important aspect of how this type of work and others that are doing this ecotherapy work. Can you share a little bit about the role of permission in forest bathing?
Let me think about that. Yeah, I see permission, that way that we meet the forest with reverence in this work, the way that we give a gift, the way that we name the ancestors of the land, the way that we really look at it, the same way I was talking about not just naming an oak, but seeing that oak, the way that we see land as a living, connected organism to us, then we in a way receive permission from the land to be with it. Right. And you see we're not just pushing through the door, we're saying, hey, can we come in for a bit? Whenever I forage, for example, I ask permission to the plant. Instead of I'm not just going to take a flower or a leaf, or I'm going to ask the plant, is this okay? Most times the plants are happy to be shared. They love to be in our bodies. So,
Yes.
but it is a really interesting experience to slow down, breathe, open ourselves up, and ask permission to the forest. And in that exchange, I think we're given permission as well. It's all reciprocity.
Yes. 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 And I find the yet another aspect of permission that I've witnessed as a earth energy healer and dowser and working with people on the land. But what I find is that it seems to me that modern people crave this deeper connection when we open that door to experience and they feel like I'm given permission to experience this physical world, this and magical unseen world in a way that maybe I did as a child, but I haven't felt was accessible as an adult. It's not something that people actually say to me. I feel like there's this unconscious level of disconnection because we're these rational modern adults, and that mystical part of nature is we discount it, but there's part of us that says it's true, but I won't allow myself to experience it. But we open the door for them to experience it yet again.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. You're bringing to mind another piece of art. We had this beautiful conversation yesterday. I almost wish the listeners could have heard, the excerpts from that as well. But we talked about soul and personality, and there's a relationship there as well. There's something, our personality is there to keep us alive, keep us safe. It's the part of us that follows the rules and doesn't jump off cliffs because we know that might hurt our bodies. And then we have our soul. Our soul, frankly, doesn't really care it just wants to experience everything. It doesn't have a judgment about the good, the bad, all of that. And there's something about forest bathing that brings people's souls back online. The personality can rest. It can feel safe when it's held by a guide who's trained and has the tools to be able to create a space that feels safe for someone to just rest the personality. It can pick it back up at the trailhead on the way back to the car. Just let your soul play for a little bit. Bringing the senses back online to experience. And that's your soul's vehicle to the world. Is what does this feel like? What does this taste like? What does this smell like? What does that sound like? What is that sound? And that feels like something we're not able to pay attention to in the pace of our everyday life. And so that permission, gives us the space to, rest the personality and let the soul live a little. So good.
Yeah, that is so well said, because as you said, the importance of the safe container is it's primary in order for us to drop the personality.
Yeah. The reason that I stepped into the work more formally was that I could see, I think that what the scariest thing I saw was the fear of children in nature. So when a group of children would get dropped off at the nature center and I was about to run a program, it would take some time just to create a container that felt safe enough for a child to touch soil, to touch a stick. How many times have they been told, put down the stick, don't touch the dirt, don't get dirty, dirt is dirty. Meanwhile, scientifically we know that dirt's actually much cleaner than a lot of parts of our own homes. That disconnect to me was the scariest part. And I thought, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life, I am going to be solving what I feel in my heart are the biggest problems for our lifetime. And number one was the disconnection of humans from the natural world. And number two was mental wellness, mental health. And I think that those two are closely related. I believe those two are closely related.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to touch every day while I'm breathing as a human being right here. Yeah, I want to feel that every day. And my portal for that is walking in a forest. I start every single day outside. My neighbors love it now, but at first they thought, why is she sitting out there in the rain, in the snow, in the wind? You name it. I start my day, I get up, I'm probably still half asleep. I take my pajamaed body outside, and I'm lucky to have a red maple that shares my backyard with me, and we just sit together. That's how I start every single day, no matter the weather, because feeling cold, feeling heat, feeling wind, that's life. If I can't deal with sitting for 10 minutes in cold, how am I going to handle, losing someone I love, which comes with life? That's so just
Wow.
learning to sit with discomfort. And that's where all these tools and practices of, where I became a meditation teacher and, been going down the yoga certification path now as well. It's just all these modalities are really serving our ability to meet those fears. Like, can we just breathe? Snakes. Boy, if we can grow our capacity to hold our own discomfort as individuals, and that gets extended out to the world around us, then what our world would feel. I mean, that to me is the cure.
I don't know if there was any other specific experience you wanted to share.
Like, we did just name losing someone we love. So maybe it feels important to speak of grief for a moment. Where grief is hard to hold. Yeah, grief is hard to hold. In this human life, we hopefully grow to love, if we're lucky. We grow to love people, animals, trees. And we also know that with life comes impermanence. One of those laws that things change. We lose people, we lose pets, we lose things that we feel attached to. And that grief is such a unique journey for each individual and for each circumstance. What I have found is that sitting in a forest is the best antidote for grief. I guess I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, but because I don't like to say it's the best and claim that, but I'm finding challenging myself, and I still can't find anything that works better than that. Is just being able to, because of the vastness that it holds, the natural world. You name a problem that you have in your human life and go into a forest and put your hand on a tree or stone and ask it the question. I guarantee you're going to get a really wise answer in return. Nature knows how to solve the problems. In grief, humans struggle. My goodness, how much we divide each other over what happens after someone dies. How much we've been dividing ourselves for eons over this question. You go to a forest, inevitably there's a dead log sitting there. It's the remnants of a tree that was once living. And there it is. You see the mushrooms, you see the moss, you see the tiny insects that are slowly turning it back to soil, that new plants are starting to grow out of the soil it's becoming. You just sit and you see that nothing is lost. Nothing is lost, ever. And so there's something really special about this work and how it holds grief that feels important to also make sure I name while we're together. Because I know someone out there who's listening has lost someone. And that maybe there's some deep, deep comfort and peace for you sitting somewhere in a forest. If someone can hear that, that feels worth all the other words that came before it.
Do you think we all have these experiences in nature? Do you think, well, maybe, do we all have the capacity to experience nature in this way?
Absolutely. It's one word answer.
Okay. And I guess now the question is, why do you think people don't talk about these experiences?
Oh, I mean, even I think sometimes there's the mystical world and then there's the 3D world that, we have to touch and feel, and our personality has to survive in each day to keep this living body living. And yeah, we've been taught that the mystical is not real, that it's mystical. Like we even the language that we use to put those into compartments makes it like, oh, there's the invisible and the visible. There's the, it's just not even, it's not touchable.
It's
for you
the
and
word
I.
the word imagination comes up.
Oof. Which is that's not real. That's imagined. It's in a different pot. Yeah. And so for us to come back to, I'm so grateful for all the teachers out there that are able to put it into language, rest those experiences in language that can be chewed on by people who are not having those experiences. And we need more leaders like that. So I'm grateful for people like you who write the book, who put the podcast out there to get the voices out into the space, because it normalizes these practices to be access. And access doesn't mean access to the mystical and the magical doesn't mean you can't come back and pay your taxes and be a super mom and, whatever, drive a Mercedes if you want to. I don't care. I'm just that, like, you can still live the good life and have access to that. Like, can we hold both is really, and that's capacity. When you named capacity, that's how I see it. I think of a thermostat being at, like, I'm only comfortable if it's between 70 and 74 degrees. Life doesn't happen there. Life is this. So can we grow through through slowing down and really seeing what's here, through learning how to be with ourselves, through connection with others in a deep, intimate, authentic way? Can we be able to access our greater capacity so that you can be aware and in touch with the invisible, the mystical, the magical, and the 3D world that we're all living in together? And if both are possible, then that's holding both is, I think, my life's work at least. And that's what I hope for others.
That was a beautiful response to that question. And I think you said it so well, Cindy. Thank you.
My personality is very happy with your feedback. My ego's like, oh, she likes that. Yes, go, keep going.
So as we come to a close, are there any last words you'd like to share for the audience?
Oh, just thank you to you for holding this space for me. It's not easy to come on, share yourself with people. I don't know who will hear our voices. I don't know who will hear my stories. I'm aware that judgment will occur because we're human. And I'm here for it. I'm also just, I think we have to move into spaces, brave spaces, so that we can share what works for us. It may not work for everyone, but as many of the 8 billion people as I can take for a walk in a forest and slow down with and live better with, I want to. So thank you for creating the safe space for me to have that access.
Oh, wonderful. And I think one of the important aspects of this work that you're doing and that I'm doing and many others is hopefully the inspiration for others to do similar work or something new, to get out there, to be inspired, to have a deeper recognition, perhaps, of this imaginal realm, which we are so much a part of.
Yeah, that's been my biggest success stories have been not are the people, which there's a beautiful long list now of people who've walked with me and now become forest therapy guides and become naturalists that are now doing education work, or people that have started nonprofits or are running nonprofits to support the land, because it's cultivating such love and care for the planet that people now want to be closer to it, touch it, share it, protect it. That's it. That's at the end of the day. Yeah. This may not pay the mortgage, but it does that.
Yes, and we have to do what we are being called to do, what we feel passionate about. And I am so glad that you're following your passion, Cindy. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Thanks, Maureen.
And I invite all of you who just listened to please like, subscribe, share, and comment if you have any thoughts that came up during this interview that you would like to share. We will respond. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we publish another inspiring episode. Check out my book, The Enchanted Earth, available wherever online books are sold. Thank you and have a magical day.